At Christmas, my sister learned I'm worth $15 million, and my family insisted I hand it over, saying she'd earned it more. I'm Alex, 40 years old, and I'm spilling this story on Reddit with a throwaway account because, frankly, it's too insane to keep bottled up. My life's been a quiet build-up to explosion that hit last Christmas, and I need to get it off my chest. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, yeah, I narrate these wild tales for a living. Please hit that subscribe button. It's free, takes 2 seconds, and keeps me bringing you stories like this one. Trust me. You'll want to stick around for what's coming. Picture this, a small Ohio town, a creaky old house with peeling paint, and me, a scrawny kid who thought life was pretty okay until everything flipped upside down. I was 6 when my sister Jess showed up, born early with a heart murmur that turned our family into her personal fan club. Suddenly, I wasn't just the older kid. I was the healthy one, which in my parents' eyes meant I could be ignored. A cough or a sneeze, and I'd be packed off to Aunt Rachel's farm faster than you can say germaphobe. Mom once shrieked at me for breathing too loud near Jess's crib. I was 7, clutching my teddy bear, convinced I'd done something unforgivable. Jess figured out the game quick. By 10, her heart was fine, but she'd clutch her chest for sympathy, skipping chores while I scrubbed pots. My report cards full of A's got a shrug. Jess's D in math sparked a family powwow. Aunt Rachel's place became my haven. Her barn smelled of sawdust and freedom, and she'd let me sand old chairs while she spun tales of the past. That's where I started piecing together my escape, one splinter at a time. By the time I hit double digits, the pattern was set. Jess was the sun, and I was some dusty moon orbiting out of sight. Her fragile act didn't just stick. It grew roots. She'd fake a wheeze to dodge mowing the lawn, and Mom would rush over with a glass of juice, cooing. Poor baby. Rest up. Meanwhile, I'd be out there sweating through August heat, the mower spitting grass in my face. If I dared complain, Dad would snap. You're fine, Alex. Jess can't handle it. Never mind that the doctor had cleared her years ago. Jess's golden ticket was punched for life. School was where it stung deepest. I'd bring home perfect spelling tests, science projects I'd slaved over, once even built a model bridge that held 50 pounds. Mom barely glanced up from Jess's latest health log, a notebook she kept like she was still hooked to monitors. That's nice, Alex. She'd mutter, flipping pages. Jess flunked a gym relay because she felt dizzy and they threw her a pity party with cake. I'd sit there, fork in hand, wondering why my wins never got candles. Jess mastered the hustle early. She'd moan about chest pains to skip school, then spend the day sprawled on the couch watching cartoons. Mom would call her teachers begging for makeup tests while I trudged through snow to catch the bus. One winter, I aced a history quiz 100% plus extra credit. Ran home to show Dad who was oiling Jess's bike because exercise might help her heart. He glanced at my paper, grunted, good job, and told me to store it somewhere Jess wouldn't trip over it. Aunt Rachel's farm was my lifeline. Every banishment there felt less like punishment and more like parole. She'd set me up with a sanding block and a rickety table saying, "Fix it up, kid. Things don't stay broken unless you let them." Her hands were rough as bark, but she'd talk about wood grain like it was poetry. I'd sand until my arms ached, dreaming of a day when someone might notice me. Not as Jess's shadow, but as Alex, the kid who could build something real. High school was my breakout, or at least my shot at it. I threw myself into everything I could, not because I loved it all but because it was mine. Mathletes, debate club, shop class, I was a machine. Senior year, I built a cedar chest with dovetail joints so tight you couldn't slip a dime through. Took first at the state craft fair, a blue ribbon pinned to my shirt, came home buzzing, showed Dad. He squinted at it and said, "Pretty neat, but keep it out of the living room." Jess's allergies, you know? I hauled it to the garage, ribbon and all, while Jess whined about a splinter from her pencil. I worked nights at Miller's Hardware, stacking lumber and ringing up nails, saving every dime for college. My parents didn't ask about the bags under my eyes. They were too busy fretting over Jess's latest episode. She'd fake a racing pulse to skip algebra, and Mom would write her a note while I memorized formulas by flashlight. Junior year, I took the act, scored a 35 top percentile, damn near perfect, burst through the door with a printout, heart pounding. Mom was icing Jess's ankle. She'd twisted it dodging gym. She skimmed my score, sighed. "That's great, Alex, but quiet down. Jess is in pain." Jess smirked over her shoulder. Not everyone's a brainiac. College apps were my rebellion. I applied to 10 schools, wrote essays about resilience in Aunt Rachel's barn, tracked deadlines on a calendar they never saw. Ohio State offered a full ride tuition dorm, even a meal plan, broke the news at dinner expecting something. Dad frowned. "Columbus is a hall. What if Jess needs you?" Jess piped up, "Dibs on your closet. I need space for my clothes." Mom nodded like it was settled. I packed my bags that summer working doubles at Miller's to pad my savings. Move-in day they didn't show. Jess had a stomach bug from too much pizza. Aunt Rachel drove me instead, handed me a $200 wad from her tobacco jar, and said, "Make it big, Alex. You're tougher than they know." I hugged her, tasting freedom through the lump in my throat. College flew by in a blur of late nights and sawdust, and I graduated with honors in industrial design from Ohio State. My parents didn't make the ceremony. Jess had a panic attack over a job interview she didn't even want. I shook it off, diploma in hand, and landed a gig at a furniture restoration shop in Columbus. It wasn't glamorous, sanding chip dressers for uppity clients, but it paid, and I loved the puzzle of it. Every piece had a story, and I was damn good at digging it out. My big break came 6 months in. The shop got a battered dresser from an estate sale. Knobs missing, finish peeling. Everyone wrote it off as firewood, but I noticed the joints. Hand-carved dovetails, smooth as silk. Spent my nights poring over library books tracing it to a shaker craftsman from 1790. Took it to my boss Lou with a shaky pitch. This isn't junk, it's rare. She humored me, put it up for auction, sold for $32,000. Lou clapped my shoulder, grinning. You've got a nose for this, Alex. I felt 10 feet tall. After that, I was hooked. I'd haunt estate sales on weekends, haggling over cracked tables and wobbly chairs, teaching myself stains and wood types. Found a federal-style desk once, mahogany, hidden under layers of paint, stripped it down, authenticated it as a 1810 original, fetched $18,000. Lou started tossing me the weird stuff nobody else bothered with, and I turned it into cash every time. My apartment became a workshop. Tools on the counter, history books stacked by the couch. Family didn't care. Mom called once asking if I'd fixed anything nice lately, then pivoted to Jess's latest health scare. A hangover. I'd bet I kept my head down, saving every commission. By 27, I was freelancing full-time, building a name among collectors who whispered about the guy who could spot gold in garbage. Lou caught me restoring a rocking chair one night and said, "You're wasting your shine here, kid. Go own it." Her words stuck like glue. I was good, really good. And for once, I wasn't waiting for anyone to notice. The seed was planted, and I was ready to grow it into something they'd never see coming. At 28, I took Lou's advice and jumped. Quit the shop, cashed out my savings, every penny from those late-night restorations, and leased a drafty warehouse on the edge of Columbus. It reeked of motor oil and had a leaky roof, but it was mine. I maxed out 2 credit cards on tools and a beat-up laptop, betting it all on myself. The first months were brutal, cold sweats at 3 a.m. calculating how long I had before the bank owned my truck, but I had my hands, my eye, and a hunger nobody in that old Ohio house ever saw. The breakthrough hit 6 months in. A client dropped off a chip dining set. 6 chairs, a table, all scratched to hell. Looked like thrift store trash, but the legs had a curve I'd seen in a Stickley catalog. I spent 3 days sanding, researching, cross-checking grain patterns. It was a lost Gustav Stickley design, arts, and crafts gold. Sold at auction for $95,000. My cut was $12,000 more than I'd made in a year at the shop. Word got out fast. Collectors started calling me the furniture whisperer, and my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I hired a crew, 2 people fresh out of trade school, and opened a second location in Cleveland by 30. Business boomed. A Philadelphia museum hired me to restore a $1,200,000 sideboard. A billionaire in Pittsburgh paid $300,000 for a verified Chippendale set I'd salvaged from a barn. By 35, I had a third shop in Pittsburgh and a net worth of $15 million. I built it brick by brick. Every deal a middle finger to the years I'd been invisible. But I kept it quiet, drove a rusty Ford war flannel from Target, let my family think I was still tinkering in some dusty corner. Then Dad's hardware store went bust. Mom called sobbing about bills, Jess's meds, code for her bar tabs, and foreclosure threats. I couldn't let the house go, not for them, but for the kid who'd scrubbed its floors. Started wiring $6,000 a month, anonymous through a dummy account. Told them I'd picked up extra shifts. They bought it hook, line, and sinker. Mom hugged Jess at dinner saying your hustle inspires us all. She just bought a $1,000 leather jacket with my cash, grinning like she'd earned it. I'd sit there sipping lukewarm coffee, hiding a smirk. They had no clue the loser at the table was bankrolling their lives, and I wasn't about to tell them. Not yet. Sunday dinners at my parents' place were like stepping into a warped play where I was the only one who knew the script. I'd show up in my faded flannel, truck rumbling in the driveway, playing the part of Alex, the guy who fixed chairs. Mom would pat my hand saying, "It's sweet you're still at that little hobby." Then turn to Jess gushing, "Tell us about your latest sale." She'd launch into some half-baked story about moving a condo for peanuts, and Dad would nod like she just closed $1 million deal. I'd chew over cooked meatloaf knowing I'd authenticated a $1,800,000 desk that week. Jess loved the spotlight. She'd lean back, flashing a knockoff Rolex she bought with my secret transfers, drawling, "Real estate's tough, but I'm grinding." Mom would beam. Dad would grunt. "That's my girl." I'd nod along, amused. My $2,500 jacket mistaken for a thrift store find. Once I wore a pair of cufflinks solid gold 18th century worth more than Jess's car. She squinted, smirked, "Nice costume, jewelry bro," and they all laughed. I sipped my water, letting the irony settle like dust. The pretense got harder when Mom started hinting at money troubles. "Jess's prescriptions are so expensive." She'd sigh, meaning her bar crawls. I'd up the transfers to $8,000 a month. Eating can soup to keep up the struggling craftsman act. They never asked how I managed. Instead, they'd praise Jess's resilience as she strutted in with new sneakers. My cash, her swagger. She tossed barbs my way. "Still messing with old junk? Maybe I'll throw you a table to sand." I grinned thinking of the $600,000 cabinet I just shipped to a Chicago collector. It was almost fun, this double life. I'd sit there tracing the grain of their rickety table while my real world spun with private jets and museum curators. Mom once said, "Alex, you're so good to stick with something simple." And I nearly choked on my mashed potatoes. Simple? I'd just been profiled in Antiques Monthly under my company name, of course. They'd never know, and I didn't care until the mask started feeling tight. How long could I play the fool before the truth slipped out? I didn't have to wait long to find out. Last summer, Jess pulled a stunt that lit a slow fuse under my patience. She showed up at my Columbus apartment unannounced, claiming she needed a break from stress, code for dodging her landlord after blowing rent on a weekend bender. I let her crash on my couch, too tired to argue. She poked around, spotted my workshop door ajar. Tools gleaming. A mahogany cabinet I'd been restoring glowing under the lights. "What's this junk?" she asked, kicking a pile of wood shavings. I shrugged, not wanting a fight, and showed her the piece. Hand-carved 19th century, worth $120,000 once I finished the varnish. A week later, I'm scrolling Instagram, and there's Jess posing with my cabinet captioned, "Side hustle paying off. Restored this beauty myself." She'd snapped pics while I was at the store, uploaded them like she'd spent a single second sanding. The post blew up. 500 likes, comments calling her a craftsman. Then the local news bit, a puff piece titled, "Jess Harper, Furniture Prodigy." With her grinning beside my work, Mom called that night, voice dripping with pride. "Jess is doing so well. Why can't you take a page from her book, Alex?" I gripped the phone, jaw tight, and muttered, "Yeah. She's something else." I could have called her out, posted the receipts, the late-night photos of me hunched over that cabinet with a chisel. But what was the point? They twisted into "Jess inspired you" or some garbage. Instead, I watched her bask in it. Clients started asking, "Hey, your sister's in the game too?" And I'd force a laugh saying, "Not quite." The sting wasn't the theft. It was Mom's call. Her blind faith in her lie while my real win stayed invisible. Years of being the shadow kid, and now she'd hijack my light without lifting a finger. I let it simmer, kept working. The cabinet sold to a Cincinnati collector, and I pocketed the commission. Quietly, like always. Jess strutted around family dinners, dropping hints about future projects. While I nodded, the truth a hot coal in my chest. It was a petty victory for her, but it cut deeper than I'd admit. And it wasn't the last time she'd try to cash in on my sweat. Fall rolled in and I landed the biggest job of my career, a colonial table set, 8 chairs and a slab of walnut so old it whispered history. A Boston collector needed it authenticated. If I nailed it, it'd fetch $3 million with a $300,000 commission for me. Every detail mattered, woodworm scars, joinery marks. So I locked myself in the warehouse, skipping a family barbecue to focus. Mom texted, "You're missing Jess's burgers," but I couldn't risk a distraction. The set was pristine, a jackpot ready to drop. Then Jess showed up. She barged into my warehouse, pissed I ditched the party, claiming she needed to talk. I was sanding a chair leg, papers spread across a workbench, provenance docs, photos, my whole pitch. She paced, whining about how I never show up anymore. Then bam, knocked over my coffee mug. Black sludge soaked the papers, smearing ink into a mess. I lunged to save them, yelling, "Watch it." She smirked, twirling her keys, and accidentally dragged them across the table's edge. A jagged scratch bloomed deep enough to kill its flawless rating. "Oops," she said, shrugging. "Guess your little hobby's not perfect." I spent hours trying to fix it, sanding, staining, but the damage was done. Called the client, voice shaking, explained the mishap. He backed out, spooked by the flaw, and the deal collapsed. $300 gone. I sat there staring at the ruined table, fists clenched. Jess didn't even apologize, just sauntered off. Next day, Dad called, chewing me out. "You should have been at the barbecue. Family first, Alex." Jess was upset. Upset? She torched my biggest score, and I was the bad guy. The loss stung, but the betrayal burned hotter. She didn't just cost me money. She took a swing at the one thing I'd built from nothing, knowing it had hurt. I patched the table, sold it later for a fraction, $80, $0, but the hit to my rep lingered. Clients whispered about reliability. At the next dinner, Jess bragged about her chill weekend. While I swallowed rage with every bite of Mom's dried chicken, it was sabotage, plain and simple, and it lit a fuse that'd blow wide open soon enough. Christmas was coming, and I was done playing nice. Christmas Eve crept up and Mom called, voice wobbly, begging me to host. Her arthritis was flaring and cooking for 15 sounded like torture. I'd had enough of her rubbery ham, so I said, "I'll handle it." Hired a caterer, top tier filet mignon, truffle mashed potatoes, the kind of spread that makes you forget stovetop exists. Cost a small fortune, but I brushed it off, been saving up, they didn't blink. I brought my tablet to monitor a live auction. A $2 million sideboard I'd restored was hitting the block in London, couldn't miss it. The food arrived steaming and perfect. Jess took one look at the spread and sneered, "What? No homemade stuffing? Mom's is better." I ignored her carving steak while relatives murmured approval. Mom apologized to everyone. Alex insisted, "I'm so sorry." But they dug in anyway. I slipped to my old bedroom between courses to check the auction. The bid was climbing. My client in the lead left the tablet running big mistake. Jess barged in hunting a charger, and froze when she saw the screen. $15,600,000 net worth, pending deals flashing. My empire laid bare. She snatched the tablet, stormed to the dining room, and hollered, "Check this out. Alex is loaded." Flipped it around like she'd won the lottery. The room went graveyard quiet. Forks paused. Wine glasses hovered. My screen glowed. Recent sale, $1,200,000. Quarterly profits $5,800,000. Mom's jaw dropped. Jess's eyes bulged, then narrowed. "You've got millions and let us scrape by." Mom wailed. Dad coughed. "Selfish kid, we raised you." I stood slow, wiping my hands on a napkin. "Scrape by? I've sent $8,000 a month for years. Your mortgage, Jess's meds. Who do you think kept the lights on?" They didn't flinch, just pivoted. Mom sobbed, "You could have bought us a new house." Jess snarled, "I deserve half. You owe me for all I've been through." Dad chimed in. "We need to retire. Think of us." No pride, no questions, just hands out. Years of slights, missed games, stolen credit, that scratch table boiled over. "Owe you for what? Treating me like a ghost. I built this alone." I grabbed my tablet, my coat, and walked out. Behind me, they shouted plans. Jess's cut a Florida condo. The snow bit my face, but I felt fire. This was it. I hadn't even hit the highway before my phone erupted. 60 missed calls, 300 texts piling up like snowdrifts. Mom's first, "How dare you storm out?" By 9 p.m., she'd softened. "We need to talk, honey." Then, "Jess deserves a share. You've got so much." Jess went full blitz on Facebook, a rant about my greedy brother hoarding millions while I suffered, complete with a sob story photo of her clutching her chest. Comments exploded. Cousins I hadn't seen since '98, old classmates, even my dentist wife chiming in. "Family should come first, Alex." I muted it all, hands shaking on the wheel. Monday, I walked into my Columbus office, and there they were, Mom, Dad, Jess, camped in the lobby like it was a sit-in. Jess clutched a duffel bag. Mom waved a notepad of plans. They told my assistant, Tara, they had an urgent restoration job. I faced them, arms crossed. Mom started, "We've decided. You're setting up trust funds. Fair's fair. Jess cut in $5 million minimum. I've earned it." Dad nodded, "And we want a lake house. Time to retire." I laughed cold. "Fair? I've sent 8,000 monthly years of it. What more do you want?" Mom gasped. "That's nothing compared to your pile." I pulled out my phone, canceled the transfers on the spot, tap done. Jess's fake tears dried up fast when security marched them out. Mom yelling, "Ungrateful." The fallout kept coming. Jess spread rumors I'd scammed my fortune. Cost me a $500,000 deal when a jittery client bailed. Texts from random uncles preached family duty. I blocked numbers, changed locks, finally sent a lawyer's letter, cease or face harassment charges. They quit when the legalese sank in, whining to anyone who'd listen they never wanted my cash. Aunt Rachel called gruff and proud, "Screw her, Alex. You earned this." 6 months later, I've got a new place. Gated, quiet, and a business hitting new highs. Jess's furniture flipping tanked. Her latest post flaunts a $20 chair she calls vintage. Mom and Dad play martyrs, but I'm free. No more dinners swallowing their jabs. No more funding Jess's ego. I breathe easier now living for me. The chaos was worth it. I'm finally out of the shadows, and they can't touch that. It's been half a year since the Christmas blowout, and I'm still piecing together what family means when the dust settles. I'm in therapy now, unpacking decades of being the spare kid, the one who fixed things while Jess broke them. My shrink says I'm setting boundaries. I say I'm finally living without a leash. Cutting them off wasn't easy. There's a hollow spot where Sunday dinners used to be, but it's better than choking on their entitlement. I don't regret it, not for a second. The silence is loud, but it's mine. Aunt Rachel's coming next month, hauling her old toolbox and a grin. We're tackling a barn find together. A warped oak dresser she swears has good bones. She's the only one who ever saw me, not just Jess's shadow, and I can't wait to sand something down with her, dust flying like old times. Mom and Dad, they're telling neighbors I'll come around praying for my lost soul. Jess still at it. Her latest Instagram's a blurry shot of a brass ring she calls an antique find. I spotted the Walmart stamp in the corner, couldn't help but smirk. She's flailing, and I'm not bailing her out this time. The business is soaring, new clients, bigger deals, even a museum exhibit featuring my restorations. That $2 million sideboard from Christmas, sold, authenticated, and shipped, my name in tiny print on the plaque. I've got a home office now, polished wood floors, a view of pines, not a vault like some, but a space that feels earned. No more pretending I'm small to keep them comfortable. The caterer from that wild night sent a note, said my family's meltdown was their highlight of the season. Made me laugh over coffee, a rare sound these days. So that's my story, Reddit. Thanks for letting me spill it. I'm not the kid banished to the farm anymore. Not the guy wiring cash to ungrateful ghosts. I'm Alex. Building, breathing free. If you're on my channel, hit subscribe. More tales like this are coming. And, Jess, if you're lurking, that vintage chair you're hawking? Article bored, girl. Just saying. Time to live my truth, no apologies. And damn, it feels good.